Hey everybody, your natural dog with Angela Ardolino, and my guest today is Lee Carroll, who I met him because I enrolled in his medicinal mushroom practitioner course, which is amazing, and I've learned so much, and I love geeking out with him about mushrooms and herbs. He is a medicinal herbalist from Australia, very familiar with the endocannabinoid system, cannabis, some of your favorite herbs, and of course, mushrooms. So we're going to be talking all about that today. Join us after this.
This is Ayla. She's a 7-year-old Schnauzer Poodle mix, and she suffers from chronic allergies. Prior to finding Ayla's full spectrum hemp oil, we were giving her Apoquil every day for her allergy symptoms, and that did nothing but mask her symptoms and lower her immune system. Ever since September of 2020, when Ayla had a mast cell tumor removed surgically, we've been using her full spectrum hemp oil every night. Ayla enjoys running around in the yard. She enjoys going for walks and car rides, and her favorite thing to play with is her red ball. We are so happy we found her full spectrum hemp oil so we can ease her allergy symptoms naturally.
And we're back with Lee Carroll. Hello. Thank you. I'm kind of like, I feel so weird because I've been watching you on video teaching me about mushrooms for, months now. So it's nice to actually talk to a real person and not just looking at you on video. Thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure. Yeah, it's great to be here. I'm sure you're sick of me by now, watching me on all those videos.
No, I'm not. But I can't imagine what it must have taken. How long did it take you to put this course together?
It was a couple of years from, start to finish. Yeah, the recording of it took a couple of months. Yeah.
It's an incredible accomplishment. I've learned so much. But I want to talk a little bit. You are a medical herbalist. Is that what we call you, or it's called?
That's what I choose to be called. Yeah.
I like it. And I remember listening to you on something saying that you had a degree in this. Is this like something that a person can accomplish in the United States, or is it a totally different type of thing?
No, there's different rules and regulations in the US. In Australia, herbal medicines are regulated and practitioners can get qualifications to practice. So naturopathy in the US is well known, and you get like a license to practice with that. So in Australia, we have naturopaths as well, but a herbalist, a Western herbalist, which is what I studied, and is a shorter degree. So it's 1 year less. So I chose not to do all of the homeopathy and the nutrition, and I focused just on the Western herbal medicine. I did more herbal units. My rationale for that was I wanted to get through my university degree as fast as possible. So I didn't want to do that extra year. And herbs is what I love. Yeah.
So what's your favorite herb?
Oh, wow. That's a moving target these days. Used to be Echinacea. Right now at the moment, I'm a big fan of holy basil, the Ocimum tenuiflorum. So I've been doing a lot of experimenting with that. Yeah, but it's not fair to ask a herbalist what's the favorite one, because there's just so many.
Well, I knew you were a big fan of Echinacea, and I don't think what people understand is like Echinacea is right up there with cannabis as having so many medicinal compounds in it. Why was it your favorite? And then I want to know why it fell to second to holy basil, because I never thought you were going to say that. So talk about Echinacea, like what you loved about it, and then what kind of, makes it no longer your favorite.
Well, yeah, that's quite a big question, Angela. Echinacea was a really prominent herb in North America in the late 1800s and in the early 1900s, and the way that it was made was with ethanol, and it extracted all of the lipophilic components. So alkylamides are the primary active constituents, and they're endocannabinoid mimetics. So they interact with CB2 receptors, so they have a profound influence over the way that the endocannabinoid system controls the immune system. Much of the endocannabinoid discussion is based on the nervous system, but it's expressed everywhere in the body, and nervous system and immune system in the normal daily function. But when there's pathology in other systems, so the cardiovascular system or the metabolic system, then the endocannabinoid system gets deranged. So Echinacea was kind of like a panacea back in those early days in the US, and it was used to treat like an incredibly wide range of diseases. And in the modern condition, many patients suffering from stress and poor nutrition and just the plethora of things that we see in the modern world, the endocannabinoid system gets deranged, and the Echinacea is a really profound influence over that. And I studied it for many years. I've been using it in clinic for many years, and it's still a herb that I use a lot. But when I encountered medicinal mushrooms, which was relatively recently, I discovered that there's more ways to support the immune system, and medicinal mushrooms have kind of taken over as the mainstay of my immune support. And I reserve Echinacea, which is quite an expensive herb when it's done properly. And there's very few companies that do Echinacea correctly, so that you get the alkylamides are very hard to retain once they're extracted. So there's a lot of technology that goes into making a good quality product. So I reserve Echinacea now for more, challenging situations where there's, a genuine need for that very highly specific action of the endocannabinoids. But I use medicinal mushrooms for, immune restoration and immune maintenance, and making sure that the immune system in all of its compartments, is optimized.
And I want to talk about that in a moment, but tell me about holy basil. What are you loving about holy basil? Because again, it's another adaptogen, so it's another powerful synergistic herb. And what are you loving about it?
Well, holy basil's, there's many herbs that are whole body herbs, and they're safe to use long term, and they don't need companions. They can just be used on their own. So in the Ayurvedic system, that's called Rasayana and ashwagandha, which is pretty famous. And another favorite of mine, fits into that scheme as well. But holy basil for me has become a favorite because the brands that I choose to use don't sell it as a single liquid extract. So I've been branching out and experimenting with other brands in clinic in the last few years. And holy basil, I've predominantly used it as a companion in acute infections where the essential oils very high in eugenol, which is similar to what's in cloves. So there's a lot of antibacterial effects when you take holy basil in an acute infection. So that was where I primarily used it.
And you're taking an extract of it?
Yeah, an extract, yeah. So an ethanolic extract in 60% ethanol so that you get out, all of the essential oil components, but then all of the triterpenes as well. There's some unique triterpenes which provide the adaptogenic properties. So when you look at the history and the use of holy basil, it was pretty much used as a panacea for many things. So it's got profound influences over the nervous system. It has the adaptogenic properties that you talked about, so it supports patients during stress. But it seems to be a whole body thing, which makes many of the other medicines, work, more effectively. And when I say it's my current favorite, I'm very flexible in my approach to, using herbs, and the things come and go. So, a month ago it might have been saffron if you had have asked me that question. So
I know. Well, I'm glad I got it. I'd never would have guessed you said holy basil. So my favorite is, of course, cannabis. Cannabis will always be my favorite because, of course, it saved my life. And I never dabbled with it in my younger years. I just thought of it as an illicit drug until I became an adult, got rheumatoid arthritis, and that's what brought me relief.
Right.
But mushrooms are, what are my second favorite. And thanks to you, I've learned so much more about them. What is it? I just want to talk about, what was the first mushroom that changed your mind, that made you go, okay, whoa. I can't stop thinking about how we share DNA with them, and the fact that they're more animal than plant, and how they're a functional food and a functional medicine. Like, it just really seems like we should be living, eating, consuming, and they should just be more part of our lives. It just seems like that's the natural way.
It certainly is the natural way. You know, we're evolutionarily designed to consume mushrooms, and our health is poorer because we choose not to. But to answer your question, like, what was the mushroom? I don't think there was one mushroom. I think as a herbalist, I hadn't really focused on mushrooms. So it was like I was 30 years into my herbal career, and I'd only kind of dabbled in mushrooms, and I had pigeonholed them as cancer treatments. And at the time, I wasn't focusing on cancer. I chose not to do that, you know, in clinic. And I had other herbs that did all of the things that I thought mushrooms did. So once I started looking, so it was 2020 when I took I dived into the deep pool, and it was like a fire hose. I just, you know, the tap got turned on, and I just sort of started imbibing all of them. So, you know, it was reishi, it was cordyceps, it was lion's mane, it was, you know, the humble shiitake. You know, they were the kind of the primary ones. But, you know, as you've seen in my course, you know, the list is quite long, and we're only just kind of scratching the surface in terms of the discovery process around medicinal fungi.
I would love to concentrate on now, and I don't know if I'm using the term right, nootropics. Are those that are ones that are interacting with our brain?
Yeah, they're the ones that make your brain healthier and make your brain, you know, function a bit better across, you know, many of the domains. So, you know, mental and emotional health, and executive function, and short-term memory, and that sort of stuff. Yeah, so it's kind of like an elevating, you know, kind of aspect.
So I want to talk about those. I want to talk about, you know, the fact that, you know, I had a dog rescue. I took on, you know, lots of sick dogs, a lot of cancer. I would be able to put cancer into remission, do like really difficult things, and then lose them to dementia. And I didn't know how you died from dementia or Alzheimer's. So it became a passion of mine. And that's what really like sent me into the mushroom world, is how do I save these animals from this? And oh my gosh, this is what humans suffer from also. So I want to talk about, why isn't everybody talking about these, you know, the astragalus root, the Bacopa monnieri, the lion's mane, the cordyceps, the rhodiola that literally regenerate neurons. Like, that's incredible. And to me, everybody should be talking about this.
Yeah, it's curious, you know, I think that, you know, there's still the broader population, you know, we've still carry this brainwashing that, you know, conventional medicine is the only way. And does convention even have anything to offer that's working? Because in veterinary medicine, they don't have anything that's working to offer these patients. That's the crazy part. Yeah, there's nothing. And it's different in humans to animals. You know, animals don't engage in behaviors that, you know, promote that sort of, you know, end result. So, you know, humans drink lots of coffee, and long-term caffeine consumption, more than a couple of cups a day over 20 years, creates an environment where, you know, dementia and Alzheimer's disease is much more likely. So, you know, I guess with an animal, a dog, you know, the dietary aspect, you know, the food that they get fed is possibly, you know, the big factor, and the amount of exercise that the animal gets as well. So,
there was nothing neater to see an animal experiencing sundowners, having dementia, and giving them these herbs or mushrooms, and literally seeing within a couple hours, making eye contact, not getting lost, not, you know, wandering around the room within a couple hours. So to me, it's like, oh my gosh, every, you know, senior citizen should have this on hand. I can feel it when I take it. I mean, I literally, you know, one of my tonics is cordyceps, reishi, lion's mane with bacopa maniri and ashwagandha.
Yeah, that's a
And
good mix.
thanks. And I can take it and go outside and everything. The leaves look, more like they have, I could see the veins and the texture, and I can think of words that I haven't, couldn't think of before. I say it balances and helps my short-term memory loss from my cannabis consumption. That's how I balance that out. But I love being like at a holistic vet conference and letting them try it and literally, I think I can feel it. You're right. I haven't thought of this word and, whatever. What is happening? How is that happening? How are these plants and mushrooms doing this?
Lion's mane is the key mushroom in that category. And the way that it works is very likely to be multifaceted. So much of the focus is on the erinacines. There's a whole bunch of secondary metabolites in lion's mane that are present in the fruiting body and also in the mycelium. And these secondary metabolites, erinacines, hericinones, there's a bunch of other ones as well. The list is actually quite long. These secondary metabolites can gain access to the brain. They cross the blood-brain barrier. And in animal studies, they've been shown to increase the production of nerve growth factor and influence brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF. So these are like, from kind of an easily accessible kind of understanding of that, is they're kind of like housekeeping programs that allow the nervous system to do its housekeeping, to reorganize the internal structure, to make sure that the inside of the nerve is functioning optimally, so it can bring back online, across a network, faulty kind of behavior. So it has a kind of restorative property. But I think it's much more than that. When you look at the early research on lion's mane, in elderly people that have got mild cognitive impairment, when they take 3 grams of whole lion's mane fruiting body a day for 16 weeks, their many mental state exam scores improve, and all of those things you were saying in quite elderly patients, they start to become more mobile, they become more aware of their environment, they have more enjoyment in food. There's all of these domains that get improved. So in lion's mane fruiting body, there's not much erinacine A, which is where all of the research interest is. That's present in high quantity or in higher quantities in the mycelium. So for those early lion's mane trials to have had that cognitive benefit, it can't really be related to those secondary metabolites. There's got to be another explanation, because the fruiting body's low in those particular constituents. So the polysaccharides might play a role. So polysaccharides get taken up in the small intestine, and then the larger polysaccharides get trafficked to bone marrow and other places in the body. And when they're in the bone marrow, they can change the behavior of the progeny that are being produced, by those stem cells. So red blood cells, white blood cells, the cells that get born from those affected stem cells are better able to do their job properly. So there might be some trafficking of some immune cells from the skull, like into the brain, to calm down the immune system, to quieten down overly excited astrocytes or glial cells, for example. So that might be a mechanism, and I think that's possibly an underrated approach. There's another mushroom which has got nootropic properties called tremella, and tremella polysaccharide exerts its influences over the brain, via its polysaccharide. So that might be a possibility. But the other possibility is that the combination of all of the polysaccharides, when they get to the gut, and lion's mane is pigeonholed as a nootropic, but it's a fantastic immune herb. It's fantastic for inflammatory gut diseases and calming down an inflamed gut and an unhealthy gut. And it's significantly prebiotic, so it's feeding all of the beneficial bacteria. So the gut-brain connection is well understood now. So there might be some direct influence from the metabolites that are being produced as a result of the fermentation in the large intestine, which then have an influence over the brain. And when we talk about prebiotic effects, most of the discussion is around short-chain fatty acids, so, butyrate, acetate, propionate. But when you get into the weeds of the fermentation aspects, when you're consuming a whole mushroom, there's literally an alphabet of different volatile molecules that are getting produced, and many of them haven't
like
really.
The fermentation, meaning after we eat it.
After we eat it, yeah.
Okay.
So once it gets to our large intestine, we can't digest those polysaccharides, and then they get fermented by the beneficial bacteria, and then the byproducts of that fermentation exert quite significant enhancements and improvements on the way, not just how the gut works, but many aspects of the body, so including the brain. So they're my kind of three three aspects that might play into how these mushrooms have got such beneficial aspects.
And I know that this is like a question that I'm not sure how to ask. So I know that you like to eat them, cook them up and eat them. And, I share your message with everybody I come across. 3 grams 3 times a week is going to feed that gut for 13 days. And then the extraction of them as medicine. What is the difference? Is that the same mentality that I should be using with herbs? Like, sometimes we have dry herbs and then other times we have extraction of the herbs. Is it the same type of thing? Is it one's feeding the gut and is nutrients and the other one is medicine, or is it different? Like, when do I know to use holy basil extract versus holy basil dried?
Right. Well, that's actually a good question. We need to treat even though mushrooms get encompassed in herbal medicine, and when those concepts were created, there was no appreciation that mushrooms were a kind of a different kind of kingdom of life. So we really need to treat mushrooms as a separate category when we're thinking about this particular aspect. And when we extract a herb, we're typically going after the secondary metabolites, and they're what kind of drive the bulk of the medicine. Some herbs have got polysaccharides like mushrooms have. Astragalus is a good example of that. Epimedium, the horny goat weeds, another good example. But the focus in herbal medicine is not always on those polysaccharides. It's on the secondary metabolites. But with a mushroom, every mushroom has got a significant amount of medicinal benefit associated with all of its complex polysaccharides. So there's naturally occurring alpha glucans, beta glucans, there's chitin, and then there's chitin glucan complexes. And when you extract a mushroom, all of the insoluble stuff, which is prebiotic and therapeutically relevant, gets left behind. So when we're using just mushroom extracts, there's a lot of waste, which is highly beneficial. And this is why I recommend patients should be taking the appropriate extract for the condition that's being managed, or the health aspect that's being focused on, as well as consuming mushrooms regularly to make sure we get the prebiotic effect of all of the complex fibers that I just mentioned.
So should we be doing the same thing with herbs? And
to a lesser extent, yeah, we should be doing the same things with herbs, but it's not as important with a herb to do that. So it's okay to be focused on the extracts. But herbal medicine is a really challenging thing to get right, and honoring nature, honoring the tradition, and making sure that the active constituents from that herb are present in the finished product is an area where there's lots of quality issues, and many herbs that are being sold in the market as extracts don't reflect how they're sold, how they should be used in clinic. And I had a long career with MediHerb, which was one of the primary, or probably the number one practitioner only herbal medicine company in Australia. So I got really well schooled in understanding quality and honouring the tradition. So it's a really vexing area actually, and it makes it hard to be a practitioner and not understand the nuances. So this was a driving force actually behind the coursework that I've produced. My Mastering Medicinal Mushrooms 1 is all about the foundation and the science of mushrooms and what makes them work. It's less about kind of how to do it in clinic. And I wanted to put that down as a benchmark so that there wouldn't be any misunderstanding around, what it is in the mushroom that makes it work.
Right. No, I there's nothing more fun than trusting what an expert like you says, using it. It works, and then I want to know how did it work? I want to know how.
Yeah.
And tell me about your experience with my favorite herb, cannabis.
Well, cannabis changed my life actually. I was
good. In a good way, I hope.
Oh, in a good way, yeah.
Good.
I had the average kind of upbringing, but there was a bit of tragedy in my life. My mum died young, and life was just pretty miserable for quite a few years. And when I finally left home, I had an abusive stepmother, and I left home at age 18, and I got into college, university here in Australia. I deferred for a year so I could go and work and earn some money. And very soon after I left home, I discovered cannabis, and the joy of being stoned, and the reality that there was just so much more to life that I was missing out on. And it totally changed the course of my life and the direction of it. I got a little bit too attached to it, so I became, psychologically, dependent on it. I was getting stoned every day at college, and I wasn't doing very well. So I decided that wasn't a really good plan. And then I slowed down on that. And only in the last 10 years, I've kind of embraced it more fully. And I make my own ethanolic extracts
nice.
from weed that I grow myself in the yard.
And, beautiful.
Nothing better than to go out on a Sunday morning and hop on my bike and go for a 3 or 4 hour ride and just meditate and allow all of the thoughts and the creative processes bubble up. Yeah.
I love it. It's my favorite. I didn't use it younger because I literally, my mother worked for the organization that started the Just Say No to Drugs campaign here in the United States. And, then college, it really wasn't until I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis and people were really like, this will really help your pain. And me taking it, and my disease is not advanced at all.
Wow,
and
that's fantastic.
My mood, my stress and anxiety levels, everything I don't know how. I'm kind of glad I didn't discover it earlier, because the same thing probably, I can't even imagine how much it would have helped me in my earlier, but I'm glad I have it now as my main medicine, my only medicine. Cannabis and mushrooms are my favorite. We're out of time. I really enjoyed our conversation. It was really nice to be able to talk to you in person. I keep missing your Monday Zoom meetings every time. I'm like, I don't know if you know this. I sold everything and moved out of Florida, and I'm in an RV. I'm actually in New York City right now, but traveling.
That's intrepid.
I know. Yeah. I keep missing, and I just got to go, foraging in Oregon and Northern California, and they just had their first rain. I have to send you the pictures of what.
How magical is that?
Oh, I had no idea reishi grew like that in in the redwoods. It doesn't even grow on redwoods, but it was everywhere, and so much red belted conch. It was so beautiful, and I thought of you so many times. But I'm really enjoying your course. Tell people a little bit about your course, because I heard a rumor that you were going to make maybe a I keep saying pet parent. That's what me and Joni keep calling it, a pet parent course. But like someone that doesn't necessarily want to practice, but wants to learn more about it. And what if a vet does want to know, or a practitioner does want to practice or bring this into their practice? Tell them a little bit about your course and where they can find out more about it.
Yeah, sure. The website is herbameditari.com.au. If you Google Lee Carroll Herbalist, you might get a lead there as well. So, as I was saying earlier, the course is designed, the Mastering Medicinal Mushrooms 1, the foundation, is designed to be a comprehensive background and understanding of everything about medicinal mushrooms that makes them relevant in a clinical setting. So it goes through, the history about why mushrooms, and then it dissects all of the active constituents. So I do a deep dive into polysaccharides and ergothioneine and mycosterols, etc. And then all of the unique individual things that are kind of smaller topics. And then I talk about how those constituents work. So how do polysaccharides interact with receptors, for example. There's a big piece on quality so that practitioners can understand, where all the pitfalls are. There's lots of pitfalls.
Yes,
and then the
sir.
final module is a 30-minute approximate discussion on 10 individual mushrooms. So that's kind of part one. Part two I'm working on at the moment will be deep dives into individual mushrooms. So I'm working on reishi at the moment. The working document that I use is about 25,000 words at the moment. So I'm just about ready to pull the trigger on starting to record that.
Awesome.
But the public course that you were just referring to, I've realized that, my patients want to know about mushrooms, and some of them, want to have a bit more of an in-depth understanding. And I don't want to waste time every session, explaining how mushrooms work. So it would make sense to have a video which did that for me. So I'm going to record a short 30-minute video for a patient, and
Awesome.
that will be free. But
It'll be the most shared video ever.
I hope so. And then I'm going to do an inexpensive 2 or 3 hour introduction to for lay people, or for practitioners that don't want to go through the rigor of something that's a bit more at kind of like a university or a college kind of standard. And I'm going to have that available by February next year.
Awesome. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for teaching us all about these
my pleasure.
Incredible fungi. I enjoy your course very much, and I'm going to spread your knowledge to everyone and help so many people. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Angela. Thanks for having me.
You bet.